Hello, hello.
Hey, hey Blue, hey Gear.
Hey there. Good to see you guys.
Good to see you too.
And
Nice to meet you in person, Stephanie.
Oh, well,
yeah.
yeah, I've watched some of your videos, but I haven't really, gotten to meet you. So this is great.
Mhm. Yeah, welcome,
Absolutely.
welcome.
Thank
Happy to
you.
have you joining us today.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
Yeah.
Blue says,
So,
"Yay!"
mhm. For all of our viewers, and I know we still have the notifications going out. Hey, Suburban Hillbilly, good to see you.
Hi,
Hey there.
Suburban.
You're riding in Blue Self Reliance. Thank you all for coming. Do you want to share a little bit about your channel and obviously Idaho Garden Girl? We know you're in Idaho, but just kind of share a little bit about yourself and your channel.
Whoop, whoop.
Okay, well, my channel is about gardening. The I live in zone 6B, 7A in southwest Idaho. The soil is pretty heavy clay. Um, and we get really, really hot temperatures from
Mm-hmm.
about mid-July to mid-August.
Mm-hmm.
We're very similar to Nevada because we're
Mm-hmm.
dry, like that.
Yeah,
And so
in
the reason
Arizona, it
that I,
sounds like.
yeah, the reason that I started my channel was because I knew that when I first began gardening here, it was a challenge. I didn't really understand it. And
Mm-hmm.
all the books that I had read were geared towards back east.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
and so they
Mm,
just didn't make sense
mm.
Yeah.
because it didn't, it's like I read this information. I was like, oh, great, I'm going to do that. And then I would do that
Uh-huh.
and it would be a massive failure.
Yeah.
So, I had to learn a lot. And
Mm-hmm.
so I was on YouTube watching videos of different things. And I saw people complaining about, and maybe it was Facebook or even Instagram. I'm not on those platforms anymore, but I remember people posting pictures about how their garden had failed and how it was they were just so mad because
Mm-hmm.
people said to do this and they did it and it didn't
Yep.
work, and so they felt
Mm-hmm.
like they had been misled. And
Mm-hmm.
so I thought to myself, well, you know what, I should have a channel where I show people what I'm doing, whether I succeed or whether I fail.
Yep.
Yep.
I can show what I'm doing. And when I have success, then I can pass that information on and,
Mm-hmm.
we can learn.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yep.
that's the motivation.
Yep. And I know exactly what you're talking about. Lisa does too. Hey, I have a question. How dry is it where you are? Is it
Oh, it's
a
very dry.
dry?
It's
That's
very
why I
dry.
was saying Lisa does too. I'm speaking for Lisa because in northern Arizona and where
Yeah,
Lisa's at in South Dakota, it's true. You could have the same zone. So I was
right,
zone 6A or 6B, one of those. I never could quite figure it out because of the way the mountains were in northern Arizona, but something like that. But I absolutely could not follow what any other like zone 6 person typically said worked for them and
right.
things like that because they don't take into play the dryness. How cold do you guys get?
Oh, we can sometimes have below zero. We can have negative
Mm-hmm.
temperatures.
Yep.
We generally get all of our precipitation, not all, but
Mm-hmm.
most of our precipitation
Yeah.
falls in the winter. We
Mm-hmm.
usually have maybe a tiny bit of snow in November. We might
Mm-hmm.
have some right before Christmas, but then usually we get snow in January, February, and March. And
Mm-hmm.
you know, um, that's it, because I don't think,
Yeah.
I mean, it hasn't rained here for a month. We haven't had any rain.
Yeah.
And when we get
Yeah.
rain, it's like, when we get rain, it's like 0.01.
Yeah. Right.
You know,
Real
I'm
quick,
like,
I I
that's
want to
like
say hi to some
somebody's,
folks that it
yeah, that's like
is.
somebody spit, you know?
Exactly. That's what we used to say about the lakes in Arizona. Um, so real quick, hello to Lori's World, Smoky Mountain Blessed. Thank you all for joining us. And Heroic Prepper. Good to see you all. Thank you for coming.
Hi.
And we're having other people chime in about the rain. So Blue, no rain in the last 7 weeks.
No, she's had nothing but rain for the past 7
Oh,
weeks.
nothing but, oh boy, did I
Yeah,
read
that's the
that wrong.
UK for you. Rain, rain, rain.
Yeah, someone else made a comment about rain. I thought, unless this is
Suburban
in there.
Hillbilly Rebecca, she said we've had
Oh,
no
here it
rain in
is.
several weeks.
Yeah, no rain in several weeks there, and then Blue's got too much of a good thing going on, apparently.
Yeah, it's feast or famine. That's what I don't like about gardening. There's too much out of my control.
Mhm. Mhm.
I want to
And you know
control
what?
it.
Yeah, and Blue was saying the first 4 to 5 years startup gardening is experimenting mostly. So I have to speak honestly. I have always been experiment. Like, I don't think I ever moved out of the experimenting phase. It never, well, I mean, we were in Northern Arizona 4 years, but even when I was in the valley and grew, a little something every year, I still felt like I was always experimenting. I never did feel like it. There were certain things, which I figured out this year. I think I know why my squash isn't growing. And I think it's because I planted. So my daughter and I both always have large squash yields. And so we didn't want to end up like we're planting so many things, limited space. You all know how it is. So I'm like, I'm going to plant, one of this squash, one of that squash. And she did the same thing. And we're actually convinced that our squash is not doing well because of, oh, there she goes behind me. Oh, hey, I got your box right there.
Okay.
You
already got them.
I did. I was thinking of you. Sorry, guys.
Hey
Jars.
there.
She just got through milking the goats.
Hey, twin brother.
Yeah. So, anyways, we feel like our squashes might not be doing well because we only planted one of each different kind of squash in the squash bed together. Versus we usually do two of each, both of us. But I figured, okay, I'll plant one of them, you plant one of them. We'll do this. And I know I think you had a video on squash not too long ago, Stephanie. What do you think about that? About my theory as to why our squash is not producing?
Well, I don't have any trouble with squash. I have like like last year I grew something like 20 different kinds of squash, and I didn't follow any of the rules. I planted them like maybe the winter squash, I planted them like maybe 2 feet apart, maybe. And they grew like gangbusters. They went out all across my lawn, so I couldn't mow there. That's too bad, right?
Yeah. Have you ever planted one by
But
themselves? Because usually I do great with squash. It always grows for me. But I typically grow two of each thing. And it's just something that I tend to do. At least grow two of something, if not more than. And and they're not being fruitful this year. And don't get me wrong, like I could definitely do some improving with the soil, but I've used fertilizer. So that's kind of what I'm thinking.
Squash grows in a dump.
Look at here it is, male flowers, and that is so Suburban Hillbilly. What I've been seeing is when I've got flowers open on this one plant, it's only like a male. Or I haven't even seen a female flower, to be honest.
right,
It's always
the male flowers are produced first.
Mm-hmm. Oh, okay. Yep.
Yeah.
So far nothing. I don't know if there's a whole lot of Oh, really? Okay, Gear. I'm doing it. That's what I will do then.
I planted mine using the square foot gardening, and I think I misunderstood something, but it's working out well. I planted one per square foot, and I've been pruning them. And my goal was if they, became way too out of control, which South Dakota not going to happen. But I've been pruning them, and my goal was to make them go vertical if needed by putting some stakes in the ground. You know what I mean? So I had a plan B, but
Yeah.
we're just starting to get zucchini forming because I'm in Siberia.
Yeah, my
you-
zucchini are just beginning to put little tiny, teeny tiny zucchini on there. Yeah.
Yep.
So maybe there's hope. And I
Yeah.
think I might try to start a couple more to give them some neighbors out there. I don't know.
Sure.
Because they've been flowering for a bit. But, here's Suburban Hillbilly said male flowers coming first happens with cucumbers also.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. How
All
are you
of those
pruning
in the
yours?
family. What's that?
Mm-hmm. How are you pruning your squash?
I haven't.
Oh, Lisa, how do you prune yours?
So what I read, I don't know. Okay. But what I read was prune the bottom leaves off and keep the new leaves on. And
Well, I guess if I
Mhm.
see like leaves that are yellowing at the bottom, I do take those off.
Uh-huh.
But when you said
Okay.
pruning, I thought you meant like cutting out of the top, and I don't do that.
No, I cut all the green leaves off the bottom though.
Right.
Okay.
Not just the yellow. And it just
Mhm.
to allow a lot more airflow and sun to the fruit was what I read. To help them grow and produce more was what it said. I mean, again, I am no master gardener or even gardener at this point, but although I do feel pretty accomplished after yesterday, but I'll leave that for my video. But yeah, I mean, I just read about doing that vertically because it helps to prevent the powdery mildew and stuff like that. So I just keep going out there and cutting them on the bottom, and they're getting all these flowers.
Mm-hmm.
I can Suburban Hillbilly because I don't have as many as most people. Hey, LP. Yeah. Plus, again, LP. I'm trying to increase my yields because one of my things this year is weighing my food that I grow because I need some validation after the past 4 years. I'm over it. Like, I need to know something.
The other thing I not only am I weighing what I grow, but the other thing is I'm saving my grocery receipts so that I have a track of the money that I'm spending on produce, so I can see, if it makes a difference.
Smart.
Yeah, that is a good idea. Yeah, the things that we can limit growing or buying by growing things is awesome. That's kind of my hope, is I can eliminate something I'm buying at the grocery store.
I was thinking of you yesterday, Tammy, because I was down feeding the meat birds, and they've reached the age of, you guys need to get out of this brood or you stink. But they're too small to go out there. Because we're going to dive back down into the 60s during the day after being 2 weeks in the 80s and 90s. So I don't know what I'm going to do there, but it's true. We were talking about, Ryan and I were talking about canning, and we were like, there's no way we can can our stuff. And we proved that by taking 9 pounds of tomatoes, and we made one little thing of sauce.
Yeah.
So, we try to do some stuff, but I try to do some freeze drying and everything. The other thing that's threatening our garden this year is the hail. Is normally we have hail, and that's an issue. We have hail season. And this year, though, it's been golf ball to softball.
Oh my gosh.
And last week we had, we were getting reports that baseball hail was coming towards us. And I feel bad, but thankfully it didn't hit us. but it literally smashed windows out south of us. But it's absolutely crazy. Yeah,
Yeah. Awful.
I saw Ark Wildman's post on Instagram. It is hot.
Yeah, that's hot. Plus the humidity. That's
Ooh,
crazy.
60
Do
pounds
you
of
know it
goodness.
is so dry in Arizona right now and hot that one of my coworkers there where they live, there are, cactus that are just decades and decades old. I don't remember how many years old she said these cactuses were. They are falling over. A
Wow.
cactus is not
Wow.
handling the heat in Arizona. I mean, there's multiple cactus that are just falling over, I guess. It's just crazy of
Wow.
heat that we have this year. But 100, that's the thing. Other thing we were talking about is in Arizona, when you're really that dry, it could be 110, feels like 103, maybe 105 because of the lack of humidity. But they've been getting like 118 for
Oh,
multiple
wow.
days in a row.
Yeah, that's hot.
Yeah.
That's hot.
Yeah. Yeah. My daughter that's still there is just absolutely miserable because depending on where you live, your AC doesn't even keep up. I hope you guys are staying cool inside, Ark. Gosh, that's brutal.
Yeah, Blue, we're going to be down to about around that temperature, 62 to 68 at the end of the week. That's cool. The garden finally got going. My cucumbers, since I planted in May, are still this big.
But the greenhouses,
Oh
you
yeah.
have seen real success with those greenhouses.
Yes. And I bought a third one.
Hey, Life with Belinda and Chuck, good to see you.
I bought a third one, Stephanie, because it did such a
Did
great
you
job.
really? You got a third one? That's
What
Yep.
awesome.
what kind of greenhouses are they?
So the first greenhouse was that typical corrugated plastic with the metal, it's like an 8-foot by 6x8. We got that off Marketplace for $50, and I think it was like an $800
Oh,
greenhouse.
wow.
That was the deal.
And it's
awesome.
not in the greatest of shape, but it's working, right?
That's all right.
Then we built a mobile one, and the only reason we built the mobile one was 2 reasons. We had a trailer we were going to sell, and the other part is our sunniest spot is in the front of our house where we need a lot of access to stuff. So what we did was we decided we'll put it in the driveway for the sun, but then move it out of the way in the fall and winter when we're not using it.
Oh,
And
my
then
God.
the third one is a cheap old, one with the plastic cover. And that's a 10 by 20. And I'm going to put it over my garden.
Oh, there you go. Awesome.
But of course, if we get hail like that, all the greenhouses are gone. That's just the reality.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you see what Joy shared? Smoky Mountain blessed Appalachian old timers say when the bees are aggressive, it'll be a bad winter. And Donnie was swarmed and stung 3 times
I
in a week at
I don't
3
want a
different
bad winter. If it's full of
Oh,
snow,
wow.
I will take all the snow. If it wants to snow 10 feet, I'm fine.
Yeah.
I can't deal with that negative 40.
50. Yeah,
47
that was
winter.
crazy.
I can't. I can't. The pigs, Sherman's tail fell off, and we think it was frostbite.
Wow.
This is the first year we've had issues with frostbite. We don't think that Grant did it while they were fighting because we've never seen signs of tail biting or ear biting with them. The girls did ear biting.
Yeah.
But we've never seen that. And it's like not to be gross, but it's a clean break. And the problem is that while I was sick, Ryan was feeding the animals, and I looked them over head to toe every day, twice a day. And so Ryan was so swamped between working full time and then coming home and doing all the animals for him.
Yeah.
Full time. There was 1 week that I hadn't seen them, and I walked over and I said to Ryan, I'm like, his tail is not there. What happened to his tail? He goes, I don't know. I said, what do you mean you don't know? Like, I look at him twice a day, and he's like, well, I was a little busy. But it was a very clean break, and we suspect that it died.
Wow.
The
Did
tail
it?
died because of the frostbite, and it falls off.
Wow.
Crazy. I can't
Mm-hmm.
deal with another bad winter.
Mm-mm. No, I'm hoping we don't have another. Is the almanac out yet? You know how they have their predictions?
November.
Ah, oh gosh, Ark is reminding us that I have two.
It's true.
I never thought about that being like, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, Joy, I agree. It's just it's so pricey, and we have to cutting the trees down. We've looked into it. We thought we had a good deal for it, but we don't. It's just
Mm-hmm.
it's going to cost a lot. The boys, I mean, they all have their barns and they're fine. And
Mm-hmm.
I
Yeah.
don't know. I'm gonna put carpet on the doors again this winter. I think that helped last winter
Mm-hmm.
because they can get out. Because it'll
Yeah.
still be cold in the barn.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like I can heat it, but
Yeah.
crazy.
Mm-hmm.
I this is
And
life in South Dakota.
mm-hmm.
You know,
Yeah.
cattle start calving in February, and it's a big thing about frostbitten ears because then
Wow.
they don't get a good. They assume what happens is when you bring them to the sale barn, they assume that if the ears are
Soy milk and
frostbitten,
honey.
the feet are, and then they're going to have a lame cow,
Oh shoot.
so they won't take them,
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
or you get a lot less money.
Yeah. Well, hopefully we won't get that horrible, horrible cold.
I can't. Yeah, I just can't.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Stephanie, what's your favorite thing to grow?
I like to grow tomatoes and peppers, but
Nice.
you know, I guess it's because I've had such great success now. Um, but like you said, Tammy, every year is an experiment. And
Mm-hmm.
this year,
Always.
my tomatoes don't seem to be growing that great. So I'm like, what the
Huh.
heck, you know?
Yeah.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
but I like to grow tomatoes and peppers. I like to grow potatoes.
Mm.
Um, and I love to grow winter squash. So I mean, and cucumbers. I love to grow cucumbers. I cannot grow a melon. I cannot grow a watermelon or a cantaloupe, but I can
Mm.
grow,
Mm-hmm.
pumpkins and winter
Mm-hmm.
squash and cucumbers. So
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what the deal is. So I just gave up. I just
Water.
don't grow melon.
I was always convinced it was like a water issue. Um, I mean, there was one time we grew good watermelon, and it was a milder summer, and we were on irrigated land,
Right.
so they had plenty of water irrigation. I would come every 2 weeks. I would have to water them in between, but that real heavy flooding of the soil
Right. Right.
helped. But when I was up in northern Arizona, forget it. There was no growing any watermelon. And honestly, even my husband and I have been talking every time we get a watermelon, we're getting it off of like a local, farmer. And the quality of watermelon here is so much tastier. Oh my gosh, than what you buy in Arizona at the store, for
Yeah,
sure.
a lot of the
Right.
watermelon
Right.
here, like even the farmer at
Mhm.
the one main farm person at the farmers market is they're from south of us, and they're more hot
Mhm.
springs, so they're lower elevation, plains, a lot of
Mhm.
heat,
Mhm.
and
Yeah.
they're in the rain pattern. They don't grow the watermelon because
Mhm.
they end up getting a pallet of it from somewhere that's
Mhm.
locally, that's somewhere grown. But it's
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah. I planted a couple. I planted two different kinds of watermelon and one kind of cantaloupe, and I don't have anything out there yet. I think it might be a soil issue, but I'll try again next year here. I
Stephanie, have you tried doing a watermelon in a container?
I did try that, but it didn't. I probably didn't get it planted soon enough.
Yeah.
because I ended up getting something that was about that big and like the size of a softball, and obviously it wasn't ripe. It should have been bigger than that, and so I just haven't. I was like, well, you know what? Maybe I should stick to what I seem to grow best. And if I want watermelon, I will go to the store and I will buy one.
Yep. Yeah. And that's, that's exactly the year that we've decided I'm done spending money and killing myself in the garden. And so one of the things that we've decided is we are going to buy some starts next year. Because I start my tomatoes and my peppers in February and March.
Right.
And to get them really mature, to put them out in the
Yeah.
greenhouse and all that work in that time. And I'm just like, I'm killing myself. I mean, I'll probably still do the tomatoes, but it's just crazy,
Maybe with the variety that you pick, like, so you know what you can buy, but there's certain things you can't buy. Hey,
Right.
hey, Gail, Southern Living and Off the Wall Prepper. Good to see you guys.
Yeah, one of the things that I'm going to switch to next year, if I can remember to order it, is I'm going to go to Dixondale for onions and shallots for next year. So I'm really excited about that.
Yeah.
I've heard people say that when they've ordered Dixondale for their zone, they've grown the most beautiful onions they've ever grown in their lives. It's that easy.
Oh,
so
awesome.
We'll see.
Huh, very cool. Hey, I've got a question for anybody that might know. So Ark Wildman was suggesting putting the goat poop on the garden, and I keep wanting to do that, but here's what I'm worried about. So when you go and to clean the goat pen, there of course is hay and all of that too. And I'm worried that the hay might have like weed killer or something on it. And then when I put it in my garden bed, that it might kill my plants. Anybody have any thoughts on that? And I don't know. I don't know how to get the goat poop away from the hay. If I
Herbicides are known to kill things, but I mean, where are you getting the hay from? You can get the hay tested at a feed store if you wanted to.
Okay.
Or
yeah.
something else you can do is you can experiment and you can grow something in a pot. You grow
do it in
two
a
plants.
small space.
Yeah, just one plant you treat normally, and the other plant you put the suspected stuff on there, and then you see what happens.
Yeah.
It takes a while
Oh,
to
I
get
love
the
that.
results.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. I think I'll do that, Stephanie. That sounds like a really good way to do that.
Yeah. I don't know if there's a test at home. I know that you can bring it to like local agricultural extension offices. Mine happens to be useless, sadly, because I never get a response from them. And the problem is they're an hour away. I'm not going to just drive up there randomly. Because one of the things I needed a selenium test, and I was trying to look for one online. Because our area is, what do you call it? It's like we have selenium in the soil, very high levels. That's the problem. So it could be toxic to pigs, goats, horses.
Huh. Wow. Yeah. You guys have me thinking now. Here I am worrying about it, and I know where we buy the hay from now. So I could call them too and just try to investigate it a little more.
They may not know.
Sure.
They may not know, because here's the thing: herbicides can actually be passed through a cow into their manure, and then it still can affect the plant.
Oh, I gotcha. Okay.
Yeah, that's the problem here.
Yeah. So better to start with a small. I like your idea of starting with that small area, Stephanie. I think I'll try that. Sounds easier too. And I have a couple of squash that I'm just moving because where I have them is just not. It's just not, obviously not being. It's not a good spot for them. So maybe I'll try that with those. Yeah, every year is an experiment. Remember what we were saying?
It sure is.
What do you feel like your big wins are this year with your garden?
Well, my peppers are looking most of my peppers are looking really good, and my cucumbers are doing awesome. I planted summer squash and acorn squash in half barrels, and they are doing great. Um, Actually, I started this last winter. I started growing in aero gardens, hydroponics indoors, and that has shocked me how well it's done. I've always resisted it. I've always thought, I don't want to do that. That's just not my thing. I don't want to, do the hydroponic stuff. But I am thinking that that's going to be a huge help for me to grow like lettuce in the wintertime. I can't believe
Yes.
how great it grows.
Yeah. Lisa knows all about that hydroponic stuff. And that's what I've been thinking too, is this winter about growing some lettuces inside using the crack key. Cause I bought all the supplies, Lisa. I have them. I'm going to use them. And then I didn't want to use them because I knew we were moving. So, but now I can, and I'm going to do that for
Yep.
this winter.
Yeah, I have dwarf tomato. So behind me, even though it's blurry, that's our grow table. Because we moved it over from by the stove. So now it's a little more functional. You see that's like pallets that hold the grow lights, but it's just like a banquet table. And so what we do, let me see if I can get the blur off. Hold on.
That's okay.
It'll be easier to see it. Oops, that's audio. Weird. Oh, there it is. Okay. There, you can see it now. It becomes a pile up for stuff. But anyway,
that's nice.
One of the things that I'm going to do is I have dwarf tomatoes from Rochelle at Brampton Gardener, and I'm going to start those in the cracky mason jars with the grow lights, and I'm going to try to grow them in the house like I did the indeterminants that I should have never done that way. Yeah, I think it'll be really cool. And I've done lettuce. I've done really great with bok choy in the house. So really good stuff like that.
And Swiss chard. You did really good with that Swiss chard too, right?
Yeah, I didn't do that in the house. I did that in the greenhouse.
That's where I saw it.
So I may try to do that as well.
Feels like it'd be a good one.
Yeah, anything green leafy is really easy to grow. And what I like about it is that, it's on the mason jar. It's a passive system. It's super easy. It's not hard at all. It's like a set it and forget it. And you literally just walk over and cut the lettuce off, and it regrows up again a few times.
Yeah, that's awesome.
What do you feel like your big wins are this year, Lisa, with your garden?
Big wins so far. Onions for the first time. I have a video coming out today. Garlic.
Awesome.
Garlic I'm harvesting today, but I couldn't wait any longer, and I harvested one because I needed to see it. And the one that I got is small, but it's beautiful. So I'm hoping to have the rest. I only planted like 8 or 9 cloves. And I think the greenhouses, I mean, we bought starts. Here's a good example. I started my peppers in March. They're just getting flowers on now.
Right.
I bought starts from the nursery, and they're literally this long and green, and I'm waiting on them to turn red because they happen to be a red variety.
Awesome. Hey, Dark Lord Minute.
So I'm better off. And it was funny because everybody said, it's too early for peppers. The plant's too small. You got to cut them off. I'm like, I get it. But respectfully, I'm not cutting peppers off if I got peppers.
Right.
Because if I'm getting them, I'm leaving them on.
Yeah.
So, and I'm waiting on tomatoes. I did pick a black strawberry tomato yesterday because I've never grown them before. And again, just like the garlic, I was like a child and needed to pick it. It wasn't ripe yet, but I ate it anyway. But lots of aromas coming in. Lots of aromas and purple cherry.
Awesome.
That's good.
How about you?
We have been doing really good with the indigo apple tomatoes. And
nice.
my big pot that ended up with 5 tomato plants in it. It's a really large pot, but I know probably not the best plan, but that's how it worked out. that pot with the cherry tomatoes, and there's a couple grape tomato plants in there, have been doing awesome. The grandbabies love it. And they've been eating the cherry tomatoes right off. They love that they can pick them, and they love the little
Oh,
ones. They're not
that's
big
good.
on the grape sized tomatoes, but the indigo apple tomatoes are doing really well. My ones that I have in the other two garden beds, not faring so well. And I think that it's probably a soil thing, because the indigo apple tomatoes I planted with my rose bushes, right? I put them in my rose bush planters. I know people that love roses, I'm sure they were like, why is she doing this? Because you can't eat roses. So anyways, those ones though love the dirt in those pots. So those are doing well. And the asparagus, boy, I've got little shoots of asparagus all over the place, and we were cutting them and eating them. And then I read, when you're growing asparagus, don't cut them if they're smaller than a pencil. So we got to quit that, because they have been smaller than a pencil.
Oh,
Yeah, I guess you're not supposed to cut those. And yeah. So, and then the other thing is the red amaranth
oh,
is just been, it's been doing well. Like, it's been doing well. I've got some planted with the tomatoes in the rose buckets. And some of them I moved, because one thing I didn't realize about the indigo apple tomatoes when I planted them is they end up enormously bushy. Like, probably not the best call for me to put a variety of tomato to put in those pots. I don't think I'll do that again. But the red amaranth, I moved to even where the soil is the poorest, and they are just thriving. So I'm really digging that, and I plan on harvesting the seed from those. I read a lot about those. I guess they're considered like one of your best survival plants, which I didn't realize when I planted them. I thought it would be great to have them, but apparently the seed lasts forever. The red leaves, the Hopi call them red spinach, and I love that. A lot of people don't know this. I lived on a Hopi reservation for a year when I was little, when I was like 5. And so anyways, I don't know, knowing that kind of warms my heart a little bit. Boy, those people can grow anything. You should look up Hopi cornfields, and you would be amazed where they grow their corn. It's just amazing. But so those are doing good. And I do have peppers coming in. I've got one little pepperoncini. So not a
oh, that,
big, I think my pots, because I container potted them. And Stephanie, I think with my peppers, they need to be up potted. Like, I need to up pot them. And then I'm thinking, well, shoot, I don't have any big pots. Like, where am I going to up pot to next? But yeah,
five,
I've got to up pot
5-gallon
those.
bucket works.
Yeah, that would work. I need to do something. So that's on my list of to do. So peppers, tomatoes, amaranth, the asparagus is doing well, but not necessarily ready to eat. Next year is probably going to be better. I guess those are, oh my goodness. And I have tomatillos and Gail Southern Living. Pretty sure the seeds that I use came from you. But I planted tomatillo plants, and they're doing amazing in the place that I consider like my crappy soil.
I got to
They're
give you a
doing,
tip.
hmm.
Slava over at Kitchen Garden Therapy and I were
Mhm.
talking one time, and she was saying, like, things like asparagus, right? A lot of
Uh-huh.
people plant them, like, say in the
Mhm.
fall, and they really don't pay much attention to them or anything like that. She had said, like, when you plant them, like, you really want to treat them like, even though you're not going to be eating them for the next several years, you want to like treat them like your seeds. You want to treat them like plants growing and stuff like that. I've been watering our asparagus. In fact, I had Ryan plant more, and it was late spring, if not June, when he added them. And I said to him, I'm like, you got to keep watering them. You got to take care of them. So I've been doing that all the time. Even though we're not eating them and we're past harvesting, I have to tell you, Tammy, it's made a huge difference. We have asparagus growing up everywhere.
Wow.
Really?
And now it's the kind you want to go to seed so that it reseeds and
Yeah.
all that stuff. But I mean,
Yeah.
that bed is chock full. I'll send you a picture after.
How awesome.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
really, that
Mhm.
mindset really helped.
Water them. Don't forget they're there. Make
Yeah,
sure
don't
you
forget
water
them. Water them and act like you're
Mhm.
harvesting from them and all that. And they have
Yeah.
just been doing so well.
Hmm.
I planted
I will do that.
tomatillos. I planted tomatillos one year and I never have to plant them again because they just come up everywhere.
Oh, that's awesome.
That's
Yeah.
awesome.
Now I got to figure out how to cook them because I've actually never cooked with tomatillos before.
Oh, I make salsa.
Hmm.
That's what
Are
I
they? Oh,
do.
they're probably good in salsa, huh?
Yeah, they're a little tart,
Hmm.
and I just use onion and green chilies and tomatillos and garlic, and it's awesome.
I was looking at Twin Brook Acres. We're very familiar with the New England because we were in, well, I grew up in New York, but then Ryan and I lived in Connecticut and we were always traveling around New England. New Hampshire was a common place for us to go. And we love it in Vermont. And the rain and the flooding is just absolutely awful. And so I'm pretty familiar with it, but I just pray you guys do well.
Yeah, too much rain is not a good thing. We were actually woken up in the middle of the night last night with a flash flood warning. You know, your phone goes off like an Amber Alert or something.
Right,
And
right.
and the first thing, you know, your eyes open and you're like, not a tornado. Like, I don't want to get out of bed. Seriously. And it was flash flood. And I'm like, oh, okay, we're good. We're in a hill. We're fine. But yeah, that we had a big rain last night. My plants love it. And I think it's because they're getting, you know, the rain is not like our water from the well. It's got so many other nutrients in it, I think, that they're loving. Uh-oh, sorry guys, hang on. I gotta hit mute. Grandbabies.
I'm just typing in. I want to make sure that Tammy sees that. I typed it in, Tammy, but Gail Southern Living has a dip for tomatillos. The grandbabies are
I gotta
running around.
try
It's
that.
okay.
Yeah, I'd love to know what that dip is.
Yeah, it's crazy.
I know it. When I'm asleep, I don't want to wake up. It was awful. Gail, do you have a video for that tomatillo dip? If not, you should do one.
Stephanie, what's the one thing that you've grown that you're the most proud of in your gardening career? Because there's always one thing that everybody's like, "Oh my gosh, I grew this."
Well, I grew really great beets, and when I lived in Vermont, but I in Idaho, I think the squash that I grow is what I'm really proud of. The squash and the cucumbers. Oh, and the peppers. The peppers. Oh my goodness, peppers and chilies. That's I get really excited over those
That's awesome.
because we have such a short season that you know I feel so lucky to get anything. So yeah.
That's a great way to put it. You know, it's like you feel so lucky to get what you get right in that small season. Um, and
Right.
it's so, I'm trying to think of a way to say this where I don't sound like I'm inconsiderate, but like the hailstorms, right? You know, people talk about all this stuff, but like when the hailstorm comes, I want to just like lay over my plants, right?
Yes.
And
Yes.
it's like, and I can't, like, I have to let that go, and I hate it. But one of the
You
things
stand at
that
the
has
door
helped,
like this.
yeah, one of the things that has helped me, right? Because what's been happening is we've been getting storms coming through at like 10 to midnight at night. Now that we've had the hot weather, and that's when the hail, we get the alarms about the hail, all those warnings and everything like that, and then it misses us, and I'm thankful. Don't get me wrong, but then I'm up till midnight. Because I always worry about the piglets at that age, because if we get that large hail and one of the piglets get hit, it can kill them compared to
Right.
my adult pigs know to stay inside, right?
Yeah.
They hear the noise and then they go, "Oh, I'm not going anywhere." But it's just crazy because, you know, it's like you wait so long to get something and you get a beautiful pepper, I'm glad they're in the greenhouses. I couldn't wait outside.
Yeah. Yeah. It is. It's hard when you work that hard. You have such a short growing season, and then you could have hail come in and destroy it all.
What's your elevation where you are? Do you know, Stephanie?
Yeah, it's about 4,000 feet.
Awesome.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Awesome. We're over 5,300 where we
Oh,
are.
wow.
And there's a lot of people in Colorado, they're at 7,000 feet. And I'm always
Oh,
amazed
yeah.
at what they can grow in their season, because sometimes in Colorado, they end up getting snow even later than us.
Yeah.
So Mountain Grandma, I tagged you on my community tab on my tomatillo dip recipe. It's called green dip.
Yeah. I'm going to find that, and then I'll put the link to it below in case anybody else
I can
is
do
wanting
that.
it.
I can do that now.
Awesome. Thank you, Lisa.
You're welcome.
So, Stephanie, can you tell us, like, of your struggles that you've had with where you grow? I know we talked about it being dry, not being able to overcome like some of the, well, I guess challenges you saw with the zone 6, what people would say to grow in your area, and then those things didn't work. Can you share with us, is there like one trick that you found that helped you overcome like different things, or kind of speak to what the things that you figured out how to do that you were like, yes, I got this?
Well, one of the big things is that we have hydrophobic soil, which means that the soil repels water. And
Mm-hmm.
because it's so dry, it's just absolutely bone dry, and it
Mm-hmm.
repels water. And you can like sprinkle water on the top of the soil, and it
Yeah.
looks like wet, but it's not,
Mm-hmm.
because if you just like, it's like a scab. If you just peel that back, it's just dusty
Mm-hmm.
dry underneath. And so
Mm-hmm.
one of the things that I do is that I have raised beds, but I've done this when I was gardening in the ground. I would rake up a border of soil around the bed where I was going to plant something, and I would flood it. I would just
Mm-hmm.
absolutely flood it with water and wait
Mm-hmm.
for that to soak in. And then I would test it and see if it was still dry. And if it was, I would flood it again. And I would continue, I continue to flood that area until the water has soaked down to where the root zone is going to be. Because otherwise you can put a seed in there and it won't grow because there just won't be enough moisture. You can put a transplant in there and you water it and you think, oh, it looks great. And then you come out in a couple of days, it still looks like it's damp on the top, but down there in the root zone, it's as dry as a bone. And
Mm-hmm.
so stuff will
Yeah.
die.
That's a
So,
great
Is it
point.
clay-like?
huh?
Is it clay-like, that dirt that you're
Yes.
talking?
Yeah. Yeah. I have clay soil here. Very,
I
very
think
clay.
that's what I have. That might be what I have going on.
Yeah. It
That's the
works
issue we
great.
have.
Yeah, it works
Mhm.
great. Clay soil is awesome because it's so full of minerals, but
Huh.
I have to add a ton of peat moss and compost to
Okay.
really lighten it, to lighten the
Mm-hmm.
soil, and
Mm-hmm.
also put the nutrients, put those composting and type nutrients. Sometimes I put the fine grind bark mulch. Sometimes I put some of that in there. It just adds to it, because it holds the water, but and it doesn't repel it. So yeah,
Yeah. Kind of gives the water a path
right, right.
to go through. Yeah.
Yeah,
I think I'm going to have to try to do that with my garden beds have dirt like that, Stephanie.
yeah,
Uh-oh.
yeah,
Ours are like that too. We that's the issue we have with our soil, is that we don't have clay, but it creates this film over it, and it looks like that, it's wet like you said, but it's not. They dry up extremely quick. We have done a lot of stuff to amend the soil, and that was one of the reasons why we were hesitant to put a fabric barrier down to prevent the weeding because we were worried that it wouldn't get enough water. So one of the things, I ended up putting cheap one down, and I think it's actually keeping moisture in there. So
Right.
hey, G Mama.
Right. I did that. I
Hey,
did
G
that
Mama
too. I
Grows.
put like the black plastic, just black plastic. I put some black plastic down because I wanted to see if I could make the peppers grow faster, because it would
Yeah.
hold, it would hold the heat. And so I cut holes and planted the peppers in. It worked great, but what I did was I put the hose underneath the plastic and just let the
Yep.
hose run, and it just soaked
Yes.
in, and then it would evaporate, but it would be trapped underneath the plastic. So it just like forced the water into the soil, and that it made a huge difference.
Last year when we had an
Interesting.
abundance of water that we had collected from like rain, or we had leftover water from the pigs because we haul water in.
Yeah.
One of the things we did was flood the garden, and we just opened it and let it flood.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And it worked great.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, I think listening to you, Stephanie, I think that you might have helped me to think through some of the challenges I'm having, because I've noticed the rain. The gardens are doing great with the rain. I thought it was nutrients, but now, I mean, I've got clay dirt in our raised garden beds. Maybe the people who lived here right before us didn't use them that often or something. I don't know. I guess you'd just expect better dirt if they did, but I think maybe when I'm watering, I'm thinking I'm watering them well, and I'm not. And when it rains, we get some pretty heavy downpours, and then they really are getting water. So I'm going to be looking into that. I like the idea on the peat moss, adding that in
Oh
too.
yeah.
Right. And
Mm-hmm.
compost both,
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think that's
Some
a
Absolutely.
people,
great
some
tip.
people, some people have said, oh, you should put some sand in with that clay to help it drain. I'm like, no, I don't want to make bricks.
Right?
Because yeah, sand and clay together makes a nice adobe brick.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So what is the one, is there anything, if anybody has any questions, Lisa put it in the chat for Stephanie. Feel free to ask those since we're almost to the top of the hour. But Stephanie, I have another question for you. Is there anything that you're thinking you want to try to grow that you haven't grown yet?
Yes, I was hoping I didn't. This was one of the things I wanted to grow this year, but I didn't get it grown. And that is, well, there's a couple of things. I wanted to grow some grain. I wanted to grow some millet, and I wanted to
Mm-hmm.
grow some amaranth. And
Mm-hmm.
I just did not get it done because
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to grow things that I can store, that for long-term
For
storage.
long term.
Uh,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, yeah, long-term food storage.
Yeah.
And I've got the potatoes, and I've got the winter squash, and
Mm-hmm.
I'm not growing any grains. So
Mm-hmm.
anyway, I could probably grow some corn, but corn takes so much space
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
for what you get.
You could do
And
Mm-hmm.
zucchini flower.
what's that?
Zucchini flower.
Oh yeah,
I've seen
yeah,
people
that's
do
true.
that, but you can't do
Huh.
it 100%. You can only do, like, I think it's whatever
Mm-hmm.
part zucchini flower to flower.
Gotcha.
Right,
Mm-hmm.
right,
But it stretches your grain. I like that idea.
right.
Yeah, the
So
amaranth. I'm thinking next year I'm going to grow a bunch more of it. We'll see what it's like to harvest the seed.
right,
But
right,
I do love the idea that the red amaranth, because you can use the leaves as red spinach, and it's supposed
right,
to taste like spinach.
right.
And yeah, and it grows well as far as I can tell in the really crappy soil. And when I
Yeah,
say
it's like a
crappy,
weed.
it's growing in the clay kind of soil, so it makes me think like, hey, maybe I could plant this like in the woods even. Like, can it grow where it's not even taking up garden bed space? I'm kind of curious
I don't
about
know.
that, but
That would be great to
mhm.
find out.
Hey, life in the Piedmont. Yeah.
Gear has a question. I'm waiting for Gear to post his question. I think I know what it is, but he's probably going to put something else. Protect your seeds from mice. I'm using glass and heavy plastic now.
Mm. Yeah, we had some mice and then we had copperheads. Haven't
Ooh,
seen the mice. I guess they're good for something. We got rid of one and there's still a copperhead in our shed with the
ooh,
yeah, we have pallets on the ground inside the shed where we keep like the hay, the feed. But what my
right,
husband did was um is he set up like a separate area so that we go in the shed, and this is like a temporary fix to the problem, but we go in the shed, we get like the bale of hay, the feed that's used for the open bags of feed, grain, chicken feed, and pellets, that we also use. And he has those in like a trailer area with a cover on it so that my daughter mainly, right? So when she's out there getting grain to milk the goats, we don't have to worry about her with the babies, with the snake, and
right.
she can get it. It's covered. But yeah, we're gonna have to do something about that copperhead in there. But I don't think there's any more mice. But I don't know, man. I think mousetrap would be better.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, the question is, how many marigold plants am I growing? Oh my goodness, probably. Oh, I don't know, like 60 or something like that. Gear.
Wow.
I'm trying to get them along the edges of the
Mm-hmm.
garden.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I have them all along the tomatoes, and another area I've got them all along one edge, but I don't have them on every bed. I have 21 beds, so I don't have them on every bed.
Mm-hmm. So, any bugs? Any bug problems this year for you?
Usually I don't have bug problems until a little bit later, just
Mm-hmm.
because we have such um, you know, slow season, put it that way.
Mm-hmm.
But I usually get squash bugs, and I hate those things.
Oh gosh.
Every morning I go out and I'm on squash bug patrol, looking for the
Mm-hmm.
adults and looking for the babies and looking for the eggs, and I'm
Mm-hmm.
squashing them, and the whole deal. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and then the other thing is aphids. Aphids are horrible, and
Huh.
I don't even grow cabbage anymore. I grew cabbage 1 year, or 2 years, and I grew cauliflower and I grew broccoli a couple of years, and then it was
Mm-hmm.
like the aphids found me. And the aphids they crawl into every single nook and cranny
Mm-hmm.
on a cabbage,
Mm-hmm.
deep into the head. Same way with broccoli, same way with cauliflower. They even get on kale. I can usually grow kohlrabi pretty safely because they want to get on the leaves. They don't necessarily get all over the bulbous part of the
Mm-hmm.
kohlrabi, but it's just terrible. Their aphids are so bad. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I've been thinking what I need to do is like put some hoops over a brassica bed, and then put a fine mesh fabric over the top,
Mm-hmm.
and then like turn loose the ladybugs in there so they have to
Mm-hmm.
stay in there and eat
Yeah.
them all up. I
Yeah.
don't know, but yeah, that's the worst. Aphids just, I
Mm-hmm.
mean, tons of aphids. You can just like scrape them off with your hand, like icing, like frosting. They're so thick. It's just disgusting.
Mm,
Yeah.
dang it.
LP, exactly. So bizarre. The same seeds that I got from Wendy at Hardneck Farm. I tried to grow those. I did my own that I collected. I did the dollar store packets. I did better quality
Huh.
packets. Not one marigold. Well, no,
Oh
I
my
have like
goodness.
3 or 4.
Oh wow.
Just every year, I never have a problem with them. This year, horrible.
Hmm.
Wow.
And the funniest thing is where my cucumbers are growing up, the pole cucumbers, which I usually don't grow here, but I had the seeds, I threw them in. It's funny because a seed must have got mixed in. So I have a cucumber plant that's tiny and a tiny marigold.
How funny.
We haven't had too many bugs yet. I did see some Japanese beetles down towards the bottom of the property behind my daughter's garden area. And they seem to be loving these certain plants that are back there. And it's
Huh.
almost making me wonder if those are trap plants. So I don't know if we should cut them down because the Japanese beetles are all over them, because then they might go to our garden vegetables, or just leave them. I did buy some of that. I think it's this powder that you're supposed to spread on your grass. Um, I haven't done it. I bought it and then I got nervous about using it. I saw Off Grid with Doug and Stacy did a video on it to get rid of
Oh.
those Japanese beetles.
If
Oh.
you
And it's
collect
not.
them all and you throw them in a bucket in
Mhm.
water, let them sit overnight, and then feed them to your chickens.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. Some people freeze them.
Really?
Yeah. And then the chickens love it.
I didn't know that.
Oh,
Huh,
yeah.
they have
Chicken
a purpose.
food.
What do you know?
Yeah, chicken food.
Protein.
Oh no, grasshoppers ate up a whole peach tree.
Wow.
That's awful. Aphids. I don't Gear, if Gear Gryden's still on, when do you typically have the worst bug problems in Missouri? I'm curious about, is it usually it sounds like it's at the end of the season for you, Stephanie, right? Like you said, you don't usually have tons of bugs right now. They come later.
Right, right. And the grasshoppers, we have
Mhm.
grasshoppers, but not too bad. Not too bad.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah, so far we haven't had a bad bug problem, so I'm hoping I get lucky this year. That would be
Right.
a wonderful thing. When they arrive, okay. Uh-oh, we lost her. Oh, here she comes. Hang on, let me. Oh,
There
there
she
she
is.
is. Yeah, you popped out for a minute. Thank you so much for joining us today, Stephanie. Uh-oh, I don't hear you. It doesn't look like you're muted, but I don't have any sound.
Yeah, I can't hear you. You can try disconnecting and reconnecting.
That might work. Oh, so he's saying for us, end of June, July, August for bugs. Blister beetles, flea beetles. Okay, so everybody's getting bugs. I don't have a ton. I think maybe that's a good sign. Oh, bummer, Gail. Okay, hang on. Now try.
There you
There
are.
you are.
Yeah. I don't know what it
We hear
was, but
you now.
there was a glitch.
Technology.
There was a glitch and I could see you guys' mouths moving, but I couldn't hear
Uh-huh.
anything.
So we are at the top of the hour. Anything else you want to share about your channel or anything coming up before we end, Stephanie?
Well, things are just getting ready to be harvested, actually. Everything is just growing really well right now. My blackberries are just getting ripe. I went out there and took a look. My gooseberries are just getting ripe. I have fruit on my fruit trees. And my peppers are blooming, and my tomatoes, they're kind of lagging this year, but I'm still hoping they grow well. My squash is doing well. I don't have any fruit on the squash yet, but it looks like it's going to be a good year.
You want to know the wildest thing? We got the earliest tomatoes, like earliest blossoms on our tomatoes this year. And it was
That's
a cool, wet year. But we're talking, I got blossoms, I think, in June.
Wow.
But we still haven't harvested the tomato.
Oh,
We're still waiting for them to blush. They are just, the black strawberries just blushed. Like I said, I ate one, but my Romas are just starting to blush.
huh.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for joining us, Stephanie. I really enjoyed this and appreciate all the info you shared.
Thank you
too.
for having me. I really
Thanks for being here.
Yeah, thank you.
Lots of good information, and it's nice to meet somebody who's over in a different part of the United States. I like that.
Yeah, me too.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks, everybody, for coming, and we will see you next week. I hope you all have a great rest of your week.
Have a great day,
Bye,
everybody.
everyone.
Bye, everybody. Thank you for tuning in.